thank you to the Medical Tourism Association for inviting me to speak today. And I can't imagine what would be more intimidating to a new industry than to have a whole panel of attorneys speaking about legal issues. So let me say at the outset that our intent today is not to scare anyone, is not to tell everyone that the business model doesn't work. In fact, what we're here to talk about today are the various different legal issues and how to address them with practical approaches based on our experience with the medical tourism companies. Now, many of you are probably familiar with the term medical tourism, and I know there are various different variations of it. But the thing that strikes me about it, of course, is that the term tourism tends to trivialize the serious nature of procedures that are being performed. And I raise that because when we're thinking about legal liability, we have to think about liability issues from the perspective of the consumer, the patient. And patients, when they see this term medical tourism, many of them are thinking, oh, I'll just go and I'll have this wonderful vacation. Yeah, maybe I'll spend a little bit of time getting a cardiac bypass, but most of the time I'm going to spend on the beach. And that cannot be the focus. Really, patients have to understand that these are serious procedures, just as they would be in their home countries. And they have to recognize that there are certain risks involved. And we'll talk about how you can communicate that and some of the best ways of ensuring that the patient understands what those risks are. Just one housekeeping matter. After my presentation, Maureen Bennett is going to speak about clinical trials and legal issues involved with international clinical trials. And in the interest of time, we thought what we would do is hold off on questions until the end of Maureen's presentation. So right after me, Maureen will speak, and then we can have questions after that. Okay? All right, and I apologize to the folks on the far left side of the room and the far right side of the room. I will try to make it over there if I can, but know that I'm with you in spirit. All right, so then let's begin. Now, our first slide, you'll see, involves this mouse. This mouse that is trying to capture this cheese. Now, what I like about this slide is that at least it illustrates symbolically the challenges of providing medical tourism services while trying to avoid legal or regulatory issues. Let me also say that no animals were injured in the making of this photo. But the challenges that we're going to talk about today include a basic overview of what the liability issues are. We'll talk about the procedural issues, specifically if there is a situation that involves litigation or where a claim may be filed, how does that actually get implemented? How do patients sue in another country? How do you defend yourself in another country? We'll talk about techniques for minimizing liability exposure. There's some handout materials that I included in the packet. We'll mention that. And then we'll also talk about informed consents and waivers, when to use them, when it's appropriate not to use them. Necessarily, we need to talk about reimbursement issues because a lot of what we're going to see in the future will be dictated by the reimbursement schemes of various different countries and also by private payers. And then finally, data privacy and security. One of the most important issues, I'm not leaving it for the end because I think it's not important, I think it's very important, but I think we need to tackle these other issues first, and then we'll make sure we spend some time on data security and privacy. Now, what we have learned recently is that the number of Americans that are projected to travel abroad for care by 2010 may be as high as 6 million. Now, why do I raise this? Why am I not talking about other countries? Because the U.S. is probably the most litigious society in the world. So, when we're talking about 6 million Americans, we're talking about potentially 6 million litigious plaintiffs that are going out to the world to have their care done. Now again, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but we need to be realistic. We need to understand that there are going to be certain risks